Hey, I'm Anne, owner of Champagne and Stars Event Decor. Welcome to And I Like Large Parties. Join me as I chat with amazing women business owners in the events industry, some that I've worked with and some that I can't wait to work with. We'll be sipping cocktails while discussing their passions, hurdles, and accomplishments. You're going to love it. Thanks for listening. Hi, so we're here with Gemma Sherry of Luv'd Up DJs. I'm so excited to be here in your amazing home.
Thank you.
So cute. And I mean, it's the decor is just, I think it fits your vibe from what I gather from your social media.
Totally. Yeah. That's why we moved here, because I wanted like a fun place that had some vintage elements.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely the vibe.
I love it. So it's early in the morning and we, instead of having cocktails, we're actually having pink Palmers. So instead of an Arnold Palmer, this is tea with some raspberry lemonade. Ooh. I thought that was fitting.
Delicious.
So I like to always start the podcast with asking my guests if they had to choose a cocktail, or it could be a mocktail, that's fine, some kind of a signature drink that you feel just represents who you are and what your business is all about, what that drink would be. So I want you to just sit with that and think about it. And at the end of the podcast, we will come back to that and see what you have to say.
Sounds great.
Okay, great. All right. So let's just start really simply by you telling me who you are and what your business is all about.
Sure. So I'm Gemma Sherry. I have a woman-owned boutique DJ agency. We provide DJ lighting, photo booth services for all like the Philly and East Coast area.
I love that.
Yeah.
And how long have you been in business?
This is our 3rd year in business.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, relatively new.
Yeah. How did you get into this?
So I was teaching before this.
Okay.
My husband's a DJ and he kind of asked me to fill in for a gig and I didn't really want to, because I was like, I don't really want to be get into DJing. Mm-hmm. And then I ended up loving it. Okay. And so then I was like, you know what? Like I could do this. I really enjoy this. This is like the perfect match of all my skill sets, because I'm a singer as well. And so I decided to start my own company and that was it.
I love that you are a female DJ agency. I think that's so rare. I haven't seen much of that. And I just think that really makes you stand out.
Yeah, it is rare. Like it's a pretty much male-dominated industry, especially in weddings. And I wanted to create something that was not so, male-focused and not the typical New Jersey bro DJs that you see out there, which there's, a time and place for those people.
Sure.
Yeah, but not everybody wants to hire that for their event. So
exactly.
I wanted alternative. Yeah.
Okay. So when you say you were teaching, what were you teaching?
I taught kindergarten and elementary school.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there's elements in there that are performative, right? So you're performing for kids. So it's very much like DJing. So.
Yeah. Before we started recording, I was telling Gemma that I was a high school teacher. So we're on opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of the age group. But what you just said about teaching being a performance, it is so true. When I would have student teachers come in and study under me for, their placement, I would always tell them, you are on stage. Make no mistake. You are on stage every day, every period, and it's important. So you saying that, you're performing for the littles. Yeah, it's so true. The accent, let's address that, right? So talk to me about that. Where are you from?
I'm from Australia.
Okay.
I grew up there, was born there, came here 13 years ago.
Okay.
So I still have the accent.
Yeah.
Probably never going to leave me.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's great. So you were talking about, just that your company it's different, right? Do you find that to be a challenge? Is that a benefit? Is that hindering you in some way? What is that like for you?
Well, I think there was a gap in the market, which is why I created it. So I think it's a benefit for me.
Yeah.
But I think if people are looking for something that's stereotypical, then it can be hindrance sometimes, because people are like, well, you don't look like a DJ, I don't dress all in black and I don't, talk really loudly.
Yeah.
So people are trying to look for a stereotype, then it might be not what their mind matches up with. Mm-hmm. But otherwise, I think it's definitely a benefit.
Yeah. It's so unique. It really is.
Yeah.
So what are some of the venues that you've worked at that you would say are some of your favorites?
Oh, great. We work at many different venues around the Philly area. We work at all the terrain venues.
Oh, yes.
Which, beautiful.
Very.
They have like smaller ones and a bit new, bigger venue as well they've opened as well. We love working there. The staff are great. We work at a lot of the jam catering venues around the city.
Yeah.
There's just so many. I can't list all of them.
Yeah. So how many people do you have at your agency working for you?
There's 6 DJs now in total.
Okay. Wow.
So we've grown. We started just with me, and then now I booked my husband, and then the rest of the team that I've brought on board.
Yeah. So I'm at the point where I've been doing it by myself, and then my husband will lend a hand when I need that. But I know I'm at the point where I have to start actually bringing in additional help and hiring someone. Being such a I'm just a type A, and I like to be in control of everything. And it's also a quality control issue, right? You know that when you're actually doing the event yourself, that you are going to make sure that you're giving the level of service that you always want to give. How was that for you, bringing on employees and just kind of relinquishing some of that control?
Oh, very difficult. I'm very much type A like you.
Yeah.
I know it's like a school teacher thing as well.
Maybe.
But, when you start your own company, especially if you really care about it, your name's on that. You don't want to have like that name diminished by someone not doing a good job.
Right.
So but at the same time, you can't be micromanaging everything, right? So it's kind of a balance. I've definitely had to let go a bit over the last 6 months. But finding, DJs or staff that you can truly trust and trusting in them. And I think if you trust in your staff, they'll always do a good job for you.
Yeah.
You've got to trust in them.
Right.
If you're thinking, oh, they're not going to do a good job, then they won't.
Right.
So I know you're great. You'll do a great job. I have faith in you.
Yeah. So for business owners like me who are on the cusp of actually stepping into that that search, do you have any tips or something you can recommend that you did to ensure that you actually did get quality people?
Yeah, it is a bit of trial and error. I will say as a business owner, I made, a couple of mistakes. I tried to train a few people that did not work out. And that's just part of the growth of building a business. You are going to have people that, just aren't going to work out.
Yeah.
But you see the red flags, quickly after that. And then you pick people, some of the people we've hired are friends of, my husband or friend of other people in the industry.
Right.
So we know they're a good fit, and you see the right qualities you're looking for, because you want those qualities in the people that you're going to hire.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So do they have their own equipment or they use yours?
Typically, everyone will have their own equipment.
Gotcha.
Some companies work differently, but we work in that every staff member will have their own equipment that they provide.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that probably, that's probably the easiest way to keep track of your inventory too, right? As a DJ.
Totally. Yeah.
Are they, so can they work for other companies as well, or are they exclusively working for you?
It depends for all companies. I know there's some companies have exclusive contracts with their DJs. I don't really have an exclusive contract with my DJs. I want them to have the freedom to do what they want.
Right. Nice.
But typically for weddings and stuff, they would refer to me if someone wants to book them, just because they don't want to deal with that, the booking side of things.
So you're taking care of all that, which is a benefit for them. They don't have to get in the weeds of that.
Yeah. A lot of
great.
DJs don't want to deal with the paperwork and all that kind of client communication. They just want to go DJ.
Right.
So I love both parts of it, so I'm happy to handle that for them.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Yeah. So what are some challenges that you're facing as a small business owner?
So connected with that, growing quickly.
Yeah.
If your business does pick up quickly, then, and you're not quite ready for it mentally, it's just trying to find a balance. As I say, trying to find new staff, trying to have good processes in place. When you're small, you kind of just do things however you do them, but if you do grow, you have to have very clear processes and be consistent with them. Otherwise, when your numbers increase, the mistakes can happen.
Yeah.
So just finding clear processes and finding a balance for sure.
Okay. As far as your equipment, is that a lot that you have to lug around? I know logistically for me, because, I do the furniture and decor rental.
Yeah.
You have to have a big truck, and it's a lot of, sweat, moving things around. That's just par for the course. For you, how much of that is a reality for you and what you're doing?
Oh, definitely. One of the other struggles is like having, sore pains in my body and stuff. So I'm getting like physio and mobility training and going to the gym regularly. I lift all my own equipment.
Okay.
But I don't have like a truckload like you might have. Yeah. So I'm trying to like minimize it and keep it as, efficient as possible so that I'm not hurting myself. I'm not bringing stuff I don't need.
Right. So talk to me about music. So what are some like popular music selections that you're seeing folks requesting at weddings? I mean, I'm older, I feel like. And I remember going to weddings way back in the day where it was, the YMCA and the chicken dance and like, so what's like hot right now? What's trending?
Oh, okay. Well, let me think. I always know what's not hot because people are
all
very
right,
clear.
All right, start there.
Yeah. People are very clear these days about what they don't want, which is always a great start. So like definitely line dances are like not popular anymore.
Okay, good to know. Good to know.
At least with our clients, and I don't want to speak for every couple because we do specialize in not doing just that. So we do get a lot of people that don't want that stuff.
Okay.
And then country music, it's hit or miss. People either really want it or they don't. Yeah, that's what we find. What's hot? I mean, Frank Ocean's making a resurgence. Okay. I'm not sure why that is, but I've been seeing him come up a lot. Mm-hmm. Trying to think what else. Let me think. I mean, people generally want a lot of different stuff. So I'm getting a lot of, like Pitbull and
love
the
Pitbull.
Classics. Pitbull's great to like bring out the energy of the dance floor. Occasionally people don't want him, but most people are pretty okay with his music.
Okay. So I know, and I've seen on some of your social media posts, and I've just in looking around at what other folks are doing, just like the sparklers and these, I don't know, they look like foam lightsabers that people are dancing around with. Yeah. So do you provide those or they provide that?
That is a couple or client choice.
Okay. All right.
So in talking about that, so we didn't used to have those at many of our weddings and they've started to come back again. Okay. I do love them, especially if it's like a reluctant dancing crowd. It does get people going more. Mm-hmm. But I do always suggest don't get them out immediately. Okay. Because you don't want all your dancing photos to be like of Aunt Mary or Grandma Joe with like glow sticks. Like you want some like normal photos and then get the glow sticks out. Exactly. But they can be fun. Yeah.
Okay. So what are some favorite songs of yours as a DJ that you just love to play?
Ooh, well, some of them probably aren't what you'd expect. I sometimes love playing Car Wash. It's like an old classic. Doesn't get requested as often, but sometimes it's really fun. Like people just love a throwback. Okay. So that's a good one. Fireball's a great one. Calibria is another great song that I love. I love that you're saying, you know those. Yeah,
I love them. I know them all.
I love all songs. Like there's always a good time and place for everything. I like to mix it up because I'm there every weekend. So I don't want to play the same song every night.
Right, right. So what are the best parts of your job, would you say? I mean, you get to like dance and listen to music. That's really cool. But like what else?
Well, that's the main part. Dancing and seeing, especially if we're doing weddings, seeing the couple like happy and come up to the end of the night and be like, oh my God, that was amazing. Like we had the best night of our lives. That's what makes it really like worth doing. Right. Helping couples like navigate choosing songs, like curating the music for them and getting rid of the overwhelm that some couples might feel with like, oh my God, I don't know what music to choose for my wedding, and really helping them on that journey. That's really a part I really enjoy doing as well.
Yeah. So what's that process like? So they want to book you, they go to your website, they fill out the contact form. You as the business owner, I guess is what I'm asking. What are you using to help streamline your bookings and payments? Is there software programs that you're using?
So we do everything like manually. Okay. We want to it's very important for me as a business owner that we don't get rid of that client communication and personal touch. I think a lot of people are using Honeybook and all these systems, not against them at all, but I feel like, I mean, maybe if you're doing huge volumes, you have to use them. Sure. But if it's just like 1 or 2 people or 6 people, I mean, the personal touch is why people want to work with you, right? They want it, like there's so many things automated these days. Everything we do is like a real person's emailing you, a real person's calling you and texting you. And that's what I think is valuable.
Yeah. You mentioned, so I started with 17 Hats, and I've talked about this on other episodes of the podcast because I was using spreadsheets, which I still use for like inventory purposes. Don't come for me. And I was using a lot of PDFs for contracts and things like that. So I started using 17 Hats just for the contract piece because it's just very convenient to input the item, the dimensions, the price, that kind of thing. And then I use Square to process the payments. But to your point, it's always me emailing them and here is the link. So I will email them and say, here is the link to the contract.
Yeah.
And, here is the link to be able to pay. So I think that having that balance of not having it totally automated, but for me, automating some of it to help, I mean, it's important. And you just reminded me, I think, to make sure I never lose that personal aspect.
Yeah, so it's so
things.
easy to. But I can understand you have a lot of inventory. So if you had to type that out every time, that would drive me crazy.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a pain.
Yeah.
So you mentioned your love of music. I know that you're a singer. I remember seeing that you had posted on social media some months back that you were in the studio and you were doing an album. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I moved to New York to study music. Okay. So I've recorded 4 albums now.
Wow.
And I still am very much involved in that.
Yeah.
And that's why my love of music has come from. So
I love that. So tell us about your latest album then.
I recorded with a jazz pianist called Kenny Barron. Mm-hmm. He's one of the best jazz pianists in the world. Okay. He just turned 80. He's amazing, one of my idols. And so I got to do a really special recording with him in New York at the studio. So
that's so cool.
That was a very special moment. Very proud of the project. I
listened to some of it because I like to be prepared. And your voice is so beautiful.
Thank you.
And I love jazz. My father listened to jazz, so I grew up on, Coltrane and Miles Davis and Quincy Jones and, some big band stuff too. But I was like, wow, she is doing the DJ thing and she's also recording her own album. That's crazy. And this is your 4th album.
Yes.
And so if people wanted to get that, where do they go?
Bandcamp's the best place to buy hard copies, whether it's a vinyl. I have vinyl records as well as CDs. And digitally you can download from Bandcamp, Amazon, or Spotify if you just want to add me as a musician on there.
Yeah. I love that. My son is really heavily into music, a lot of old stuff, and he's into vinyls.
Cool.
We got him this fancy record player, which I remember back in the day. If you hit the thing, it scratched the record. You had to very delicately. This thing is completely automated. It does everything. I'm amazed. I'm like, wow, you don't know what it was like trying to listen to records back then. But he's very big into buying vinyls. A lot of Beatles, Fleetwood Mac, that kind of stuff.
Very cool.
Yeah, it is cool.
Son, yeah.
Yeah, he is. He's a cool kid. So you're married. I got to meet your husband. What is that like, right? Do you ever work jobs together or are you always working them separately? I mentioned I have my husband come along and help me. Mm-hmm. And you're so thankful for the help, but you're also, it can be a little bit tense sometimes, especially as you're trying to move, a champagne wall. So that's always interesting to navigate. But do you ever work with your husband? How does that go?
Yeah, if we have a very big event and we're not both booked at separate events, then he'll come with me or I'll come with him. We typically busy dates will be doing separate events just because it's better use of our time.
Yeah.
But if we're not, we'll definitely go together and we love working together. Yeah. Obviously there's moments anyone you work with all the time. Yeah. But we actually work really well together.
That's good.
We're a good balance.
Yeah, it is cool. I find that with my husband helping me, I think we're spending a little bit more time together than maybe we would be ordinarily. Yeah. So it is almost, I don't want to say it's like a date night, but you are I'm working, but you are kind of out and spending that time.
Yeah.
So it can be fun. Yeah.
It can be. Yeah.
It can
I think
be.
Yours is more like a date night. We spend pretty much every day together. So ours is not a date night.
All right.
If we're not together, it's a date night.
Okay. Speaking for myself. So talk to me about some influential people in your life.
Wow. So I was thinking this question before today. Okay. And maybe you can relate to this. So I had a principal at one of the schools I worked at who was very much about processes and rules and very disciplined with her approach to running the school. And I think initially I was like, well, this is too much. But in hindsight now looking back, I learned a lot of skills from her and being disciplined as a educator, as a leader. And I think I've taken a lot of that on now that I have my own business.
Yeah.
But it's not until you have your own business that you realize that, right? When you work for someone else, it's different, right?
Sure.
So definitely her. And I've had different coaches over the years that have helped me educationally and business-wise. So they've been really helpful for me.
Okay. So just to go back to the teaching, how long did you teach? How many years did you do that?
6 years, I believe.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but
Yeah.
it's around that.
You start to lose count, right? It goes
Around
fast.
6 to 10 years. I can't remember exactly how many, but yeah, like
Okay.
at least 6.
And so why did you leave the profession? I'm curious.
It was during the pandemic.
Okay.
So I was teaching like a pod school during the pandemic, which was like one of the best teaching years of my life.
Yeah.
Because you don't really have a principal, like your own boss. I had only 4 kids. It was incredible.
Sure.
I got to do everything I wanted to do with them. And then they went back to like normal school, like after the pandemic kind of phased out a little bit. And that's when I decided to get into DJing.
Gotcha. When I was having just a crisis when I left teaching, what am I going to do next? It was my husband, and I've spoken about this, who said, you don't realize how many skills teachers actually have and how transferable those are to other industries. You think, oh, I'm a teacher, I can't do anything else. So what would you say are some of those skills that you had as an educator that you are definitely utilizing as a small business owner?
Definitely. So teaching wise, definitely like lesson planning and just being organized. Like you have to be
That
so
organization, right?
Oh, it's like another level.
It
Only
is.
teachers get it,
It is,
right?
I know.
And it'll drive you crazy at times, but it helps you so much. I mean, the planning for a classroom is more than a wedding. So I always find a wedding easier. It's like, okay, this is how it goes.
Yep.
I also worked in hospitality before doing teaching.
Okay.
And so, I manage a restaurant. I worked at a nightclub a little bit and worked at a cafe. So those skill set of working customer service
Right.
with the public all the time, those skill set comes to you, can be passed on to working in weddings.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
You mentioned that this is DJing is a male dominated industry. Have you ever had any instances where you feel like maybe you've lost a booking, or I don't know, you just felt because you are a woman trying to make your way in this narrow space that came into play?
I feel like our branding is very with the colors and everything. I really try to attract the right kind of clients.
Yeah.
So I don't think we get many people that aren't a good fit.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I was trying to think. I don't really think that's happened.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's good. Yeah, and
thankfully.
that makes sense, right? You know what kind of client you want to work with, and so you're doing your due diligence as a business owner to make sure that you're putting it out there and it's message received, right? They know what you're about by looking at your social media and your website, and so you're going to attract the people that want to work with you as well.
Yeah, it kind of screens people that you
It
don't want
does.
to work with.
Yeah.
That aren't a good fit.
Yeah, it does for sure. Yeah. What's the farthest that you've traveled to do a job?
Australia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I'm from there, so I always we'll go back there and see family anyway.
Yeah.
But it's still a long way away.
It is. Yeah. Do you have a lot of family there still?
Everyone's still there.
Everyone is. So you're the only one here?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. How often do you get back home?
Once or twice a year.
Oh, wow.
So
Oh, that's
quite
good.
often.
Yeah, that's great. How long of a flight is that?
21 hours.
Wow.
Depending on which way you go.
Okay.
So I try and do a Hawaii stopover if I can to make it more enjoyable.
Okay. I was just in Hawaii last summer.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was kind of a bucket list trip for the family. So we all went and it was lovely. It's a long flight. I'm not a good flyer. So I don't know, that 21 hours.
You wouldn't make it.
I don't know. We'd have to FaceTime maybe. A lot of FaceTiming. So what are some plans that you have for your business?
So I just launched, I don't know if you saw Luv'd Up Films.
Yes.
recently.
Yeah. I'm so glad you brought that up.
That's all right. So I launched that, must have been 6 months or 8 months ago now. So I really am trying to, building that part of the business up because I'm very passionate about creating, and I get to create more doing videography than I do with DJing. So building that up, I'm actually also studying film photography as well.
Okay.
As an add-on with that as well. So gradually merging into the two of those together.
Yeah.
Maybe doing less DJing.
Okay.
But still obviously having my team, but I'll be doing less DJing.
Right. So is that how you're managing it? So someone from your team will be DJing and you'll be doing the filming kind of thing.
Maybe, or I'll be doing another wedding. So yeah, I'd have other DJs doing different events.
Gotcha.
And then I may do DJing and filming of a wedding.
Okay.
I'm a great multitasker.
Yeah.
As a women are.
Yeah.
So doing a mixture of the two.
Okay.
So that's a plan with that.
Yeah. Are you seeing bookings come in for just the filming aspect of your business?
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely, yeah. And I'm not really doing too much promo just because I'm so busy with DJing at the moment. But the plan is to, really go hard with that and get more video work.
So how many events are you doing like on an average weekend?
Well, myself, 3.
3. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty busy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of like you become an athlete in a way.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't really realize that, but and you probably know this with being a teacher, but you do get exhausted after a weekend of DJing because you don't just like half-heartedly do it.
Right.
It's someone's like the best day of their life and I'm not going to get up there and just like press play and like look over at the wall.
Yeah.
Like I give it my all for every wedding because I want people to have a good time and see I'm having a good time too.
Yeah.
And so sometimes on a Monday, I'm wrecked. Like I lay on the couch and just be like,
I'll bet.
I've got nothing left to give. But then I like go to the gym, eat well, and then by the next Friday, like I'm ready
You're ready to go.
Yes.
Yeah. And I've seen your pictures and it's always high energy. So
yeah.
You take the week to just like recuperate and then you're ready to go for the weekend.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Just the idea of giving it your all, it is exhausting. Yeah. And there are some times I feel for myself, I'm like, I don't know, why am I doing this? Like, I'm so tired. Like, I don't know. And then you're like, oh, but I really love it. You know, it's just in the moment, you're just so tired that you're like, oh, second guessing it. And then you're like, you're ready to go for the next weekend. So I experienced that too.
Yeah.
So what would you say are 3, I don't know, like personality traits or I don't know, aspects of maybe like a work ethic that are really important if someone wanted to be in the industry that you're in?
You definitely need to be persistent. And I would say that with any industry. And I've learned this with being in the music industry as a singer, which is like even harder to get into. Persistency is a key with anything. So if you're not seeing growth in your business, just keep going, you know, keep posting, keep getting referrals, keep networking. Like it will happen. But you got to be in it to win it. So don't give up too soon. You never know when your business is going to like skyrocket. If you're doing the right things, it will happen. I can guarantee you that. Just sometimes it takes longer than others.
Yeah.
So that one, definitely like determine with that. Show enthusiasm. People love enthusiasm. Like if you're happy and got a good vibe about you, then people want to work with you. That's important with a business.
Yeah, definitely.
And be clear about your vision. So like, know what you want. If you're just like, oh, I want to be successful, that doesn't really mean anything. You have to have really clear goals and know where you want to go with your business and make some like short and long-term goals and then just like be laser focused. Okay. Whether it's to get on like 3 vendor lists or you want to get 20 weddings this year or you want to get a wedding at this particular venue, like just laser focus on that. So.
Did you do a business plan for this?
Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh. I didn't. No,
okay.
No. So I just started. I actually honestly didn't think the company would kick off. Like I wanted to do it. It was like, oh, let me try this.
Yeah.
And then I remember I got my first email. Kylie was my first client who emailed me. I don't think I even promoted it myself yet. Like I just had a Google listing and she was basically my dream client. I don't know how she found me from the heavens.
Right.
But, we had the best wedding and she's like one of my dear friends now. So like when that happened, I didn't have a business plan. I had like a logo. I was going to advertise on Wedding Wire, which it's a whole other discussion we can have another time. And invested some money in that, but I didn't have a business plan. Like, that was it.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, as you come along though, like you have to start making goals.
Right.
So like I have a business plan.
That becomes the plan.
For sure.
Yeah, definitely.
And I reevaluate it every like few months, sometimes every week if I'm really like obsessive. But yeah, I didn't start with a business plan.
Yeah. I wound up I just Googled like business plans, you know, like I'll just start there. And I found one that was pretty simple.
Yeah.
And it definitely, again, coming from the education background, I need a graphic organizer. I love a good graphic organizer.
Oh, who doesn't?
Right. So I essentially use the business plan as my graphic organizer to just get me on the right track. And it helped me to start thinking about some things about business that I hadn't thought of because I've never done anything like this before. Yeah. So I always like to curious, what was everybody's process like, when they started this? But you're right, your plans change. And I know if I looked at my business plan from 4 years ago, I'm probably going to laugh at what I actually entered in there.
Totally.
But at the time, I feel like it was, it was helpful. So hearing you talk about like, oh, this is the most important day of their lives. People will say to me, oh, you're an event planner. I'm like, no. I do not plan events. I have nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
I do the decor. You tell me what you like. I get there. I make it pretty. I leave. I come back. You're there the whole time. And music is it's crucial to the reception. I know I don't want the pressure, and that's why I'm not an event planner. I don't want that pressure of this is someone's event. This is their big day. That's a lot riding on me. Mm-hmm. How do you handle that?
I'll be honest. Every wedding, and this is after doing like over 100 weddings myself now, every wedding I still get nervous. Like I still have a little bit of anxiety.
Yeah.
And not like overwhelming that like I can't function, but just it's an important day. Like you don't want anything to go wrong.
Right.
And nothing has gone wrong yet.
Good.
But you still have to think like, okay, if this happens, what am I going to do?
That's
and
right.
so because of that, like I bring backups of everything so that no matter what happens, I have a contingency plan because I don't want to ruin someone's special day.
Yep.
So yeah, there's still anxiety, but that's like performing, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're not a little nervous, it means you don't care.
Yep.
So it just means I care.
Yeah, I definitely, that resonates. I had an event where I had these vintage chairs, and the top of the chair, it's old furniture, and it broke. And I was like, well, you know what? I've got my portable hot glue gun. It's battery operated. Yeah. So I was ready. So you always have to have that plan B or C.
Yeah.
I'm going to hot glue it. It's going to hold. And then when I get home, I'll properly fix it. Mm-hmm. But for now, so yeah, having to always shift and pivot. And you're right, always having those little bit of butterflies in your stomach. I think that is normal. And to your point, I think it's probably healthy because it means that you care about what you're doing.
Yeah, definitely. I would be worried if I turned up and I was like super relaxed and didn't care.
Yeah.
Because that's when mistakes can happen.
True.
I hear all sorts of stories of people turning up not prepared, like DJs and stuff. And I just think, how can you do it? You can't redo a wedding. Like, that's it. That's the wedding. The ceremony is happening now. You can't go back and say, hey, let's redo that again because I didn't have your song or I didn't have this.
Exactly.
So I'm glad that you feel the same way.
Yeah. I feel like that would actually cause me more stress.
Oh.
In the long run, not being prepared, that seems more stressful than going through the process of making sure I have all of the backups that I need.
Yes.
Yeah. I feel like that's probably just for my mental health. That's probably the better way to do it.
Be over-prepared.
Be over-prepared.
Always, yes.
Yeah, than under, for sure. Have you ever had a client that wasn't happy with what you did, but you knew that you did a good job, but they just, I don't know, they were difficult to please? Sometimes that happens.
Yeah. So... And I've talked to a lot of people about this that have been in business longer. And once you start doing higher numbers, which we really are getting into that next phase of business now, it doesn't matter like how good a service you provide. Just the numbers game is that you are going to get.
Sure.
Like having a restaurant, there's always going to be someone who you just can't please or they're having a bad day. So we've only had like 1 or 2 out of, 500 weddings now that have been unhappy, and we've always do our best to resolve things immediately.
Yeah.
But I find most people, it's not really a proper issue. It's just that they want to complain.
Sure.
Because when you try to resolve it, they don't.
Yeah.
They don't really open to that. So it's like, well,
Yeah, that customer service piece that gets, I've had, most of my clients they are so lovely, and they almost become like friends, they do. And, but I've had maybe one so far where I was kind of like, I don't think she was happy. And even though I know I really did a good job, that you start to take that a little bit personally, but you have to, like you said, you have to remind yourself, look at all of the positive feedback that you get. You did your best.
Yeah.
They probably just wouldn't be happy with anything,
that's
just
thing. Yeah, totally. You have to look at your history.
Yeah.
And if you did everything
and
everything to resolve something as well, and the couple's still unhappy, then you're like, okay, well then it's not on me anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. And you just have to kind of let that go.
Yeah.
And be at peace with it.
But it's hard not to be personal, right? You're saying, because you trust that you're giving the best service possible. And if someone's like, no, you didn't, you're like, wait a minute, like I did my best. What have I done wrong? You know?
Yeah. So you bring like the lighting and everything too?
Yeah, people
You
hire
do that.
Anything that's needed for like the party side of things, we provide.
That's cool.
Yeah.
How long does it take you to set up?
Good question. We allow normally 2 hours. Is a minimum. We can set up quicker, but we allow 2 hours. Just like we talked about before about being prepared, allowing for unexpected things that can happen, like a venue power outlet doesn't work, or we get roped into helping set up a floral display because, I don't know, their assistant didn't turn up, or we can't set up because there's like tables in the way and they haven't set those. Things happen at weddings. And so we're really just prepared for anything that could happen,
Yeah, sometimes it's rough when you show up at the time that was designated for you and the space is not ready for you to get in and actually do what you need to do. Or, you have an hour before the event because there was an event prior. And so you had that really small, that just adds a whole other level of stress to an already stressful situation.
Yeah. And we try to avoid those situations. Yeah. Like if a client's like, you can only got half an hour set up, we say, we can't
do it.
Like you'll have to find someone else.
Yeah.
Because if we can't provide the high level of service that we promise, then what's the point? We'll give you like a subpar service and it's stressful. Why be stressed? You know?
That's a good point, right? You don't want to deliver subpar service.
Yeah.
So sometimes certain jobs are they're just not for you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, some venues have very strict noise restrictions. I don't know if you know this.
I don't. Tell me.
Yeah. So like there's some venues in like DC, for example, that because they live like it's right in the neighborhood area and the noise level is just so minimal that it would not allow for a great dance party. So we just don't take weddings there. Wow. You could like pay us whatever and we'd be like, oh, sorry, like we're booked that day.
Yeah.
Because like we can't give you a dance party. Like if we can't give you the product that we promised you, then why would we work there? And then everyone's like never really feeling it because it's like background level music. You know?
Right.
That's a hard decision to make.
That is, that is tough. Yeah, that is tough. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, and venues won't tell the clients that.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
how do you wind up? I mean, do you investigate on your own, or you happen to know about that venue and what they're called?
From like actually performing there. We've done so many venues over the years. So has my husband. So we've pretty much played nearly everywhere. Yeah. So we know where that happens.
Yeah.
We're just not setting ourselves up for like failure. So
yeah, that's kind of super helpful though, that you've done so many events that you start to really know the ins and outs of the different venues.
You've got to. I mean, it's so hard if you're turning up to a new venue every weekend. It's much more difficult, but we know most of our venues now. So we turn up, it's familiar. It's easy for the vendors and the venue managers if they know you've worked there before than if you're just like turning up and don't know the load in and you don't know how logistically things work.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Yeah.
All right. So what would you say is like your favorite part of what you're doing with this business?
Growing it, really. I really didn't think I'd love running a business so much. So I love growing it and seeing it progress and seeing like the word spread about the company and connecting with other vendors and just like creating this great network.
It's a great feeling, right? When you go from having no clients, like you have no one, you just started this and you get your first one, you're like, oh my God, like somebody's actually going to pay me to do this. And then, you as the business grows, you're like, oh, wow. Like, okay, now I have not too many, but sometimes you have to turn people away because you're already booked.
Yeah.
I mean, that's huge. Looking at something that you said that you've actually built and grown. I mean, that's a great feeling.
It is. And you get that instant reward.
Yeah.
Like I feel like with this business, I'm definitely getting instant reward. I put the work in.
Yes.
It comes back out again.
Yeah.
Unlike some of the things you do. So
I know. Yeah. Not to just, monopolize the conversation with teaching talk, but that's I feel for me, that's a major difference.
Oh, yes.
I mean, you're teaching, you're working hard. And yes, that your kids are getting what they need to get out of it. But you really are not getting the thanks and the praise and just the gratification that comes with when you're providing a service like I'm doing or in your industry. People are so thankful and they're so appreciative and you see that right away.
You do. You immediately get like a parent or a couple saying, thank you so much. You get a card often.
Yep.
You may get a tip or I've had presents given to me. I had someone make me a Luv'd Up sign like 2 Luv'd Up signs to take
so
to gigs.
cool.
It was such a beautiful personal gift.
Yeah.
And thoughtful. And I was like, oh, as a teacher, you get maybe a present at Christmas and that's it. So that is nice to be appreciated. And it's not about the gift or the money or tip. It's just about, you know, someone just acknowledging like, hey, you made a difference on my special day.
Exactly. Yeah. I so I'll have kids that they're not kids anymore. I mean, they're adults now because I taught high school, but you know, 10, 15 years after the fact, they come back and they say, you don't know what a difference you made in my life, or, you know, I still love this book because of how you taught it. And those moments are, I mean, there is nothing better. But, you know, I had to wait 15 years for that. You know what I mean? As opposed to providing decor for an event. You know, it's an immediate text or email, or they get you at the end of the night. Thank you so much. You made such a difference. So, yeah, it's more of an instant gratification, you know? It's funny.
It's so funny and so true, though.
Yeah, it is.
You can go home and just be like, oh, great. Like, I did a good job today.
Yeah, that's right.
You know? And sometimes when you don't get a thank you, I'm always like, oh, did it not go well?
Right.
I'm sure it went really well.
Yeah.
Everyone's like having dancing, but then, you know, the couple can be in their own world.
Sure.
It's
Yeah. So would you say you do primarily weddings?
Yes.
Okay.
So I started off doing a bit of a mixture. I was doing like a little Taylor Swift parties. I don't know if you saw that. So I was doing them like, you know, at least twice a month all along the East Coast. And then I started getting more weddings, so I had to say no to doing Taylor Swift parties.
Okay.
But yeah, primarily weddings.
Okay. Like, do you like corporate events or any of that kind of stuff?
We do, but we book out like pretty much two years in advance for weddings. So like corporate work, if they don't tell me until like 2 months out,
which is typical because that's when they start looking for vendors.
That's right. If it's like a week, you know, a weeknight or an off-peak night,
maybe you could squeeze it in.
Yeah. So I love corporate events too. Yeah. I mean, I'm happy to do anything. Just weddings like dominate everything.
Gotcha. Yeah. So 2 years in advance, that gives me pause. Why don't you like repeat that for everybody?
2 years in advance.
Okay. So that's probably the standard timeline for booking a vendor such as yourself for a wedding.
Totally, yeah. Okay. And I mean, it's especially for me because people generally will say like, oh, we want you to DJ.
Yeah.
Because I've been doing more weddings for the company originally. And I have like a bigger team now, so there's a bit more flexibility with that. But for me, definitely it's like 2 years in advance.
Yeah.
And we're becoming like photographers. Like, you know how you want like an it photographer or something? People would book them way in advance. Yeah. Like we are becoming that way with our company too.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Definitely. 2 year. Oh, I mean, you know, you think about the reception like that's the party.
Yeah.
That is huge. The wedding, I mean, I know, you know, the vows, that's what they're there for. But yeah, I mean, the party, that's where it's at. So it makes total sense that you want to book your DJ and like you said, photographer well in advance to make sure that you have that covered.
Yeah, if you want like someone in particular and you really like want a certain vibe and ambience, you've got to do that. And we don't even just do the reception. Like we do everything from ceremony through to the end of the night. So
you do that as well?
Yeah. Oh. So I don't want to say we're a planner because like you were saying before, like, you know, we're not a planner. That's what planners are for.
Yeah.
And we work with a lot of great planners like Jewel and the Abby there at Oasis. But we do a level of planning in our preparation because we are running the day. Like we are making announcements. We are doing the audio for every part, making sure people move where they're meant to.
Wow.
So it is a level of planning.
Yeah.
Like, so you need to pick the right person who's organized to do that. Like not just a party bringer, but someone who actually like is on top of things, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I hadn't thought about that either.
Yeah. People always think it's a DJ is just like the DJ.
Yeah.
It's like way more than that. Okay. That's why I think the teaching background's useful.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You definitely know how to like wrangle folks in, and this is what we're going to be doing. That organization piece, again, that comes right back into play.
Yeah. The timeline of the day. You need to have like a really in-depth understanding of that and be able to like adjust on the fly as weddings change. So yeah, it's basically like a school day.
Yeah.
Except with like drunk adults instead of like little kids. Same thing.
I love that. That's great. So that's so funny. So what would you do? Like, what do you do in the situation where the crowd is just, I don't know, they're not hype and they're just not into it? Like, what are your tricks? How do you get the crowd into it?
So I had a couple ask me that like in a potential client call recently. And I had to say, I actually haven't had that happen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. People turn up to weddings. They want to have a good time. Yeah. We don't attract boring people, which I'm so grateful for. Like everybody who comes, couples that join us, they love music. They want to have a fun wedding. They love color. They love just like the branding attracts the right people. So it hasn't happened yet. If it did happen, I mean, I'm not the one to get on the microphone and be like, come up and dance. What are you guys doing? Like, that's not my vibe. And we never advertise as the people who are on the microphone, like hassling people or telling jokes. That's just not us.
Okay.
So we would just change the music and I would keep bringing the energy behind the DJ booth.
Gotcha.
And then if people just want to chat and talk, that's just like...
That's okay too.
That's okay. Like some weddings aren't dancing weddings and you can't make people dance.
Sure.
Like people want to drink outside by the fire pit. Let them. Like that's what they want to do. And they'll go home and have a good time. They're not like, oh, it was a bad wedding. That's what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my approach to it. But
yeah. How many slow songs do you play?
That's a great
what's
question.
the average?
It would depend on the client. So everything's fully customized. So we have some couples that don't want any slow songs whatsoever.
Oh, wow.
If it was like my choice and recommendation, I'd say at least one, just so that like the oldies can get up and have a dance and you can have a dance with your, your new husband or wife. So one is good. A couple's nice too, but not too many.
Okay.
Just because it depends on the length of the dance set. So sometimes we have an hour, sometimes we have 3 hours.
Okay.
3-hour dance set, I probably play a few more,
Yeah. I know I've seen on like, Instagram reels and these really highly choreographed first dances and not even like traditional ballroom style. I know folks take lessons and they do that. I mean, like no one's expecting what these people wind up doing out of nowhere. Have you actually experienced any of that?
I would say out of like, let's say a percentage of all our clients, I would say maybe 10% would do like a rehearsed dance.
Okay.
So it's a pretty small amount. We don't do like a lot of our weddings are a bit more, I wouldn't say casual, but they're very more relaxed and fun. They're not like extra, they're not kind of extra weddings where people are trying to be something they're not or try and have like too many sparklers and things. That's not really our vibe. So that's probably why we don't get a lot of like choreographed first dances. But when we do, it's great. I always say it's good to rehearse a few moves. So it's not just like you swaying back and forth, which is what I did at my wedding.
Same.
As much as I say that, I'm like, why didn't I do that? So yeah, a few moves is good, but we don't tend to do as many rehearsed dances just because people don't have the time. They're just like, oh crap, my first dance. What's the song going to be? They tell me the day before and then next thing they've got to go do it.
Okay. Gotcha. So what would be just a couple of tips, particularly for women who are getting into their own business? This podcast is all about women in the events industry, but I find that, when I sit down with people, and even if I were going to give business tips, I feel like it translates into other businesses. So what are some tips that you think you would give to women that want to start their own business?
I would say like make sure you invest in your business for starters. Like don't be scared. I think you always, whatever you invest into it, you always end up getting back like tenfold, but be willing, like don't be scared to put in money into business, even more than you're comfortable with, right? Because the more you put in, the more you get back out. The other thing I'd recommend is like making sure you focus on lots of different areas of your business. So when I sit down and I'm like looking to grow my business, like don't just focus everything on social media or everything on this. Like look at all the different buckets that could be, you could grow on and improve. And then every like month or so, like, make sure you've got goals in each of those buckets for your business and you put time into all those things because you never know what's going to be impactful and actually create growth in your business. So just look at those areas and be like, okay, like let me do these many posts this day. Let me reach out to these vendors. Let me create these relationships and do it that way.
Yeah. You mentioned social media and we've talked about it a couple of times. So for me, that's like a job in itself. It feels like it's very time consuming, but it's crucial for networking. I mean, had I not been on I wouldn't have met you. I wouldn't have seen your work. So it definitely, it's super important. What are some ways that you're marketing your business, in addition to a social media presence?
I think the key is word of mouth. Yeah. Like if you do a great job, then people tell their friends or their bridesmaids. So that, and vendors as well, like working well with other vendors is a huge, huge, huge thing. social media is great. As you said, it's a full-time job.
Yeah.
So I do enough to keep it going.
Yeah.
But I'm not putting my heart and soul into into it, because I realize like that's not the main place, and I could grow more, I'm sure, but I'm happy with where it is.
Yeah.
You know,
it's showing up, doing a really good job. And like you said, your clients being happy and then telling someone else or using you for another, another party, another life event. I'm kind of getting to the point where I'm seeing that happen. I did somebody's wedding or someone's shower, and, they're hiring me for their baby's, baby shower. Or, I have this really sweet client. I did her baby shower last year. She's had her baby's turning 1. She just hired me to do the baby's first birthday. So
fantastic.
Yeah, like that. I feel like that is, like you said, that's probably the most effective marketing is that word of mouth.
And they're guaranteed that they're like, we talk about leads, they talk about that way.
Yeah.
It's like a really hot lead. If it comes from someone who has been in a wedding of yours, or it's like a relative or a friend, like it's a guaranteed like sale, if you want to call it a sale.
Yeah.
But if you're getting like something from Wedding Wire, I mean, half of them are,
Okay. Yeah. I've seen those sites. I don't know much, but just because I do a lot of different, you do a lot of weddings. I do a lot of different events.
Yeah.
Some weddings. So I'm not on Wedding Wire, or what's the other one? The Knot.
The Knot.
Yeah.
Zola,
Okay.
like
okay. So is that par for the course? Like if you are the kind of vendor that really provides services that are sought after for weddings, you have to be on those?
So I would say no. You don't have to be. I think that it's a good place to jumpstart your business, to get seen. Otherwise, you're just kind of hoping people will find you via Google. Do I think it's necessary forever? Definitely not. Once you've got word of mouth and like and internet, you still get referrals. It also depends on what business you have.
Gotcha.
Like photographers, I mean, there's so many on there. I don't know if I was just doing photography, whether I'd do on Wedding Wire, because there's like a sea of people on there and you get lost.
Okay.
So yeah, it's each to their own.
Yeah.
Not necessary.
Gotcha. Okay. So tell folks where they can find you.
Sure. You can find us on the internet. On website is www.lovedupdjs.com, or on Instagram at Luv'd Up DJs. And our film company is lovedupfilms.com. And we do like vintage videography. So Super 8, 16 millimeter, and VHS.
Yeah, it's super cool. Yeah. That's a really unique, that's a unique idea. I love that.
Thanks.
Yeah.
It's super fun.
I'll bet.
And it's like totally my vibe. So.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm going to bring us back to the original question about a signature cocktail or mocktail that you feel just really represents who you are, what you bring to the business, what your business is all about.
That's a hard question.
Yeah.
And I don't even know how to taste because I don't really drink much these days. Okay. But I love tropical drinks, and I think a company's fun.
Yeah.
But I was like, it should be something pink, but I don't even know what pink liqueur you could put in there, like a pink coloring or flavoring. Yeah. So like I would think like Malibu, like it's like a coconutty thing, perhaps some pink lemonade, love but that. like a real colored pink one. And maybe like a splash of like mango juice or something.
That sounds delicious.
Fun and tropical and colorful.
Yeah, super fun.
With like an umbrella and maybe like a disco ball on a end of a straw.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. That's super cute. All right. I really appreciate you letting me come into your home today.
Thank you for coming.
Sitting down with me. It was great to finally meet you in person.
Likewise. I feel like we've known each other for ages.
I know, right? Yeah. Isn't that so funny? Like you become Instagram friends and you feel like you do know the person.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we walked in, I hugged you right away, and it's like, hey, like, I don't know. It was just so comfortable.
It didn't feel awkward at all.
It didn't. No. It's like, hey, you. Like, I already know you, right? Yeah. All right. So I like to end the podcast with a toast.
Sure.
What should we drink to?
To new friends.
Oh,
for
right.
Sure. Yeah.
I love it.
And a great year.
Yes. To new friends and a great year.
Thank you so much.